And you look at people who are the greatest at all time, Federers and Tiger Woods and whatever, they have the expertise. It's having someone in your corner with unconditional support for you and you alone. It's just a massive thing to help you perform at your best.
Let me invite you to sit back, drop your jaw, tongue, and shoulders, take a deep breath, and if you wish, close your eyes for a moment and feel the beat within. In a few seconds, you just jumped from your head to your heart and felt the beat within, opening up to receive even more value and fulfillment out of your business and life, and today's episode. I am your host, Nico van der Venne, confidant to successful CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs striving to achieve everlasting fulfillment. Welcome to the Everlasting Fulfillment Podcast with our next guest, David Roche. David is an executive coach and mentor at Gray Area Coaching and works with first-time CEOs across many sectors. David studied psychology at Durham University and also has a professional hypnotherapy qualification. I stumbled a little bit there, David. My apologies.
I saw you in therapy.
Might help. His second book, Become a Successful First-Time CEO, was published last March this year. Welcome, David, to the show. I've been looking forward to our conversation because you touch on a lot of things that I also touch on. Tell us a little bit about how you came to creating that book, Becoming a First-Time CEO.
Thanks, Nico. I'm delighted to be here. God, where to start? I just sort of started the idea when I became a first-time CEO and realized that I wasn't, no matter how I thought, I'm ready for this, the natural progression. I had come from a big C-suite job in a big corporation. I went to a medium-sized company to be CEO. So I thought, this is just the next stride. And then was completely blown away by the difference between being the solely responsible person for everything. And I wasn't prepared for it. I did get some help from a coach then, which was great and invaluable, and that helped me think about leadership style as well. But I also had my own views on potentially how that could have been improved. And I saw throughout my journey as a CEO, other people going into the position of CEO and seeing the stress and really having the very few opportunities where people did drop their guard and would go, oh my God, what is it really like? Because they were in a safe space to do so, and you were not a threat to them, or there was respectable distance between your organization, theirs, or the sector, and going, oh my God, everyone suffers from this, and the transition that they go through really isn't fit for purpose in order to set people up for success rather than failure. So, into coaching myself. Actually, when I moved from being an exec C-suite, in an exec C-suite position to moving into non-exec roles and chair roles and thinking, hang on, we have an expression in the UK, noses in, fingers out, the job of a non-exec. You get involved, find out what's going on, or you don't fix it yourself. And I thought the skills of a coach in terms of support, challenge, or as coach and mentor, support, challenge, some good questions, all those things is actually very similar to the skills needed for a non-exec director. So I delved into it more and how to did a coaching course to become a better non-exec director rather than become a coach, but totally got into it. And so as the nature of things, I was asked by someone, say, do you provide coaching and mentoring? And I said, well, no, I don't know. I've been doing it for years informally. And then from there, I developed a sort of side business. I only coached 3 or 4 people at one point in time. Still with the chairmanships that I do. And I really focused on that first time CEO, occasionally aspiring, because I've been there, felt the pain, and understand that independence, that's the key word, I think, the independence, is so critical. But to have someone to offload onto, let alone get any advice or insight or the coaching skills that go there. The book was a cathartic exercise, as books often are, to get things out of your head and onto paper. I worked in publishing, in and around publishing for 25 years, so sort of respect the process of writing. I'd written one book before that was a completely different thing. And this book, I wanted to try and see if there was a way of putting down almost like some of the benefits that you get out of coaching in written form that so people could do it remotely. It's also, quite frankly, the business card for the coaching business as much as anything else. But I'm a firm believer in the power of stories. I'm a massive business book fan myself, but I read fiction generally rather than business books. But I'm a firm believer in the power of stories, and rather than necessarily bullets, in your memory thing, they're going, oh yeah, because ABC, the bullet points that. What I remember out of stories is how you felt at the time, what the emotional response was. And so I wanted a book that went through, it was full of anecdotes and stories that actually illustrated how relationships work. Because I'm a firm believer that part of this transition issue is about building the right relationships. So the book looks at relationships internally, both to the board and chair, to your senior leadership team that report into you and run the company, to the wider company, everyone else who works there, but then outside as well, through the media and partners and suppliers and so forth. So as it's a book on relationship, there's no right or wrong answer. If I was talking to you and asking you a question, how you felt something today, we might make a good view of what your thinking was and your view was. If I answer that next week, it may be completely different. You may have got out of the bed, a different side of the bed, and be a bit crankier that day. But also that if you're a boss, we've all had bosses who crack the whip, and when you need, your sales are down, you need to try harder, and it's only when you actually get into the job and you experience it and you make mistakes that you learn on trying to search the reason why people in performance or whatever. It might well be turn around and go, well, actually, what you didn't know is my father has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. I've just become the primary carer, and I'm split up from my wife. There's many reasons why I just decided this week not to try so hard at work. It's probably the least likely of the options. So what I liked about in that process was, because there's no right or wrong answer in relation. Well, there might be wrong answers in how to conduct relationships, but there's no right answer. My editor described it as a why-to book rather than how, and I thought that was quite a neat way of.
Okay. A why-to book. Okay, well, that's very interesting, because most of them indeed are the how-to and what you see and so on. And I like the fact that you're mentioning a lot of stories in there. So we had a short conversation in the green room about the terminologies that I use with C-level, like CEO disease and so on. And you kind of recognize the symptoms that I brought up.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the major ones is isolation. Because a lot of people are used to, you grow up into the chain of command, as they say, and at some point you come to a point where you're the big guy or gal who has to arrange everything, and you used to have these peers who aided you in achieving, your goals, and now you're doing it solo. What kind of stories do you have in that?
Well, I mean, and those peers, if you're internal, can see that those peers are now from that second, instead of being the ones, having a laugh with you in the boardroom, they're the ones. They all sit there waiting for you to leave now, and then they're all starting. Just the paranoia kicks in, and probably one or two of them think, I should have got that job, Rob. But then if you're in the external talent, you get in, it's quite often you'll find that there may be someone who probably should have been exited a while ago. It's last ditch thing goes, all right, new person. I am going to be so helpful and so nice and so friendly because they're relying on you to turn this around for them and give them another chance. And the one who's smiling most is probably the one who wants to axe you in the back because they should have got the job. But anyway, I don't know. I think there's something about rather than story. I think it's certainly something that isolationist thing about armor, and that the imposter syndrome, whatever you want to call it, and that loneliness of being at the top makes you put on an armor that says, right, I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what all the answers are. That's the biggest thing is thinking you need to know all the answers as opposed to having the best questions. And I show no weakness. So I have this armor, this mask that I put up, that I wear. But actually, what that does is make you even more isolated. It makes people go, boy, they don't want any questions. They don't want any challenge. They don't want any advice. They've got all the answers. They leave them be. And so that isolation continues, and the relationships that you need to build just don't sort of flourish and grow because it is you make your isolation even worse. An anecdote around that, I don't know. I just felt I had when I joined Borders and this chain of bookstores, American bookstores. There, I ran the European operation, so my bosses were all based in Michigan, and I say one that time issue when you weren't used to that of the day. As soon as you thought your day was over, it is just starting. This is a killer. So I know people who've got bosses that report, but equally into sort of Australia and the US, and I really don't know how they live because there's never any respite. But I think that was a really interesting example of the isolation because building any relationship across the Atlantic was really tough. This was a long time before COVID changed everything, and the sort of conversation we're having now, and everyone's used to this. You're used to establishing relationships over a screen and hearing yourself talking into your headphones. But back then it was a very different thing. Even when I started my coaching a few years ago, I would always try and meet and people I was coaching in person at least the first time, because it was really important to establish that relationship. Now, as I said, you're used to it. Back then, having the bosses in the States, I used to have spent an enormous amount of time, say, for example, doing the first forecast or whatever. You'd inherited a budget, someone else's thing, but then some of the numbers are yours. Working with your new senior leadership team, trying to get the culture in your organization or whatever, very inwardly focused, and with it, and then externally presenting the results that are focused to say, this is what our plans are, this is what we're going to do. You really need this capital, we need this help. And then going to the US and realizing that you were one of several territories outside of the US. The US actually didn't really care about the external territories that much, and were probably planning on selling them at some point. And your CEOship was actually, there was still a hierarchy beyond that it was really interesting, and to shareholders and whatever, and like like you were when you were aspiring manager or something, and you get a chance to go and present something in the board, and that's always a nightmare. You're probably at the bottom of the agenda. You've prepared a half an hour presentation. You've spent weeks doing it. The pressure's on, and then the board is run by someone who does not empower, just machine guns around the room by department to finding out what everyone's done wrong and then giving them a bollocking. So that all is thinking of the future. They've gone over the past ad nauseum. By the time you're supposed to go in and do your half an hour presentation, you go in and your boss goes, "Can you do it in 10 minutes? Because that's the word black." And so all the plans go out the window. Absolutely everything. Everyone's pissed off. It's a really bad way of doing things. And my very first presentation of the territory, the board, whatever, it was meticulously made, bottom up, this budget, and agreed with my boss, and of course I'm in the US on a Monday about to present to the group board, and it's a bank holiday in the UK, which is a public holiday. I can't get my fire street. I can't contact anyone. They're all doing whatever. But about 2 hours before the meeting, my boss says, "I've just had, I've done a bit of sound check, and I've seen some of Rail Taxi's numbers, and basically, we need another X million on the bottom line, or 5% or whatever." And he's sitting there going, the whole thing is just, and you get to the point of just going, "Okay, well, what do you? If you're telling me to do that, I can do that. I can explain to everyone. I can do it. But ultimately, what number do you want?" And getting a number, I'll just put that in. And he said, "What about the schedules behind it?" You want the number, Suddenly going from a sensible, managed, bottom-up, culturing budget to it's a number. That was just a real shock. And again, I had no one else to turn to. Of course, the first thing that happens when I got back was the CFO going, "What the hell did you have to the budget? I need a number." I was going, "Well, why did you agree to it?" You go sitting there going, "Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I could have disagreed, and I wouldn't be sitting in this room."
Yeah, that's
and he's prepared for that, for those sort of things. Whatever you get on training courses or experiencing, I was more prepared for that from the sort of unreasonable requests or just bad treatment. You got in a totally different context. It was just, hang on, how emotionally am I prepared to deal with it, with something that's a surprise and I can't change? And that might have been through sport or anything, a driving incident, or anything can fit that. Not just, okay, so when was the last time I was in a board meeting when this happened? What I found in the benefits of coaching and mentoring for that are, to me, this telling the stories thing is really important. The number of times I've been with CEOs who sit there and go, "Okay, I'm really stuck with this. I don't know what to do." And coaching you sort of go, "Right, well, what are your goals?" Blah, 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 blah. And then you get to the options, and always the good stuff is when they've run out of things to say, and then you push them, and eventually something happens. But that's pure coaching, and I think this is where the balance of mentoring and coaching comes in. CEOs are really busy people. You can't push them forever, and you go, "Well, and anything else?" Well, they go, "I've got 5 minutes. I'm paying you a bloody fortune. I need some help." I'm a busy person.
Give me the solution. Come on, give me the solution. Yeah.
But what I found then, and I sort of stumbled on it, obviously there's a basic change of framework thing that you're taught as coaches, but inevitably what it ends up doing is saying, "Well, let me just tell you something that happened to me that has some similarities." And then just go into your story and go, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really matter what it is. And then inevitably, after halfway through the song, you go, hang on a second, something you just said has triggered the answer that I've been looking for. And this, there you go. And first time, it's, wow, already, yeah, no. But my view is that change of framework's the key, and you know, you can see the answer to someone else's problem far more easily than see your own answer. But you've been discussing their problems so long that they're surrounded by them, but can't see my own answers applies. But as soon as you start talking about your own problems, some problem solving mode, they're going, right, and that connection, like a fork of lightning, happens to their own problem. And it happens all the time. It's far too consistent to be purely by chance. And that's where that's a really exciting moment to watch, is that sudden insight of going, oh my God, I've just got it. And then you go, what was it I said? Yeah. They go, what was it I said that triggered it? I can't remember. I've got no idea. And that's the point.
Oh, I know what you mean, and it's so funny. I stopped calling myself a coach and a mentor. I'd rather use the word confidant, because when
that's really good. I like that.
Yeah, you're like, I'm here. You're in a safe space. Just tell me what's going on, and we'll talk about it. And that's, like you said, a lot of your peers that used to be your supporting group are becoming, the other side of the war zone sometimes. And I find indeed that's a lot of C-levels when they switch over, they forget that actually building relationships is 10 times more important than actually becoming the next in line or the next one that steps up. And they become frustrated because the people don't answer anymore. They don't tell them the truth half the time, because it's just, let's put a fail in front of their eyes. And
you never have any good decisions to make. If there's an easy decision, it's not brought to you. Why would they waste your time with that? It's only the really, really horrible decisions when they come to go, geez. So your to-do list of decisions is just horrible. It's not sitting there going, oh, each of these lovely options. It's the least
always
worst
option C, isn't it? Not A and B that they bring to the table. It's option C that you should find. And
it's always the least worst option, if it is an option that if an option is there, which is it's not necessarily great fun. You do have to make a decision as well. I'm a firm believer. There's one great CEO I work with, and he always said, a poor decision on a Monday is better than a good decision on a Friday. And obviously they're going, but how's this going to go down? But actually, explaining some of the rationale as much as you can is always helpful. But if people expect you to make a decision, and that it's that inability to make a decision, and that sort of the sort of Damocles hanging people's heads on the basis of waiting. It is this kind of good communication will solve half of that problem.
Yeah, indeed, and it's very clear that what I've experienced in the past as well, when I was in a couple of roles, I was on the other side of the table, looking at the C-level. And what I saw as a big difference, because I've been in several different companies, is when a C-level knows what they've decided and they've got this, rigid decision. I'm like, okay, this is going to be it, guys. We're going to take this thing. And even though like 3 days later, it turns out to be a complete mistake to go that way, and they still stand behind the fact that I took the decision, but we are going to solve the problem, because I know, I'll take responsibility for this story, and people start trusting you. And that's when the ball starts rolling. Sometimes I say you have to make one really big mistake to get the people on board, because you're owning your mistake, and then you're the man. You're the one that actually took a decision and rolled with it and found out it was wrong. You owned it and you fixed it. And that's where people say,
Yeah.
this is a person I want to follow.
Yeah, and that vulnerability is really key. And that's the taking off of that mask, that armor that I mentioned, that vulnerability. I remember one of the biggest things moving in industries from one to another. And I'm actually making this a horrible mistake in the first year because it was a very different culture and everything else. But actually getting up at a company conference in front of it was retail, so all the store managers and they were actually just apologizing. And I wasn't really apologizing for myself because it was totally my boss. He came up with some ridiculous things. He was moved on, and I just got up and apologized and didn't try and explain anything. But actually, I'd never heard anyone from head office apologize for anything ever before. And it was the beginning of an amazing relationship that was built because they just hadn't had it. I was doing it, sort of eating humble pie that tasted horrible through gritted teeth. But actually, it was probably the best thing that could have happened.
Well, you have these pies that are rotten on the inside, but I think this apology was very sweet on the inside and rotten on the outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Seeing the good side of that story. So when you came down to the writing that book, do you use a lot of materials from people that you work with, or is it mostly your own experiences?
It's a bit of everything. I definitely other people. I contacted a whole lot of people I'd worked with who'd gone on to success and asked them for anecdotes and stories. Particularly, would take certain areas and say, anyone got anything? And actually broadcast out to people I didn't know. And I've got some great stories that were specific to certain things. So it's all sorts. And as I say, I try to make them, to pick the ones that I found entertaining as well as educational in there. So the nicest thing anyone ever said about this book was that someone said, it's not many business books that can claim to be a genuine page turner, but yours is. So I thought that was
that's
the
nice.
best compliment. That was the best compliment you could possibly get.
Yeah, I think I've got a new one going on the pile today. Nice. Yeah, that's the downside of podcasting. You meet so many people who have written books, amazing books, and you start reading one of them and you start collecting all of them, and suddenly you're with like 30 or 50 books.
I'll probably send you a digital copy.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. Absolutely. So, David, what would be one thing that you would, broadcast out there as a tip or something that you really want to put out there for people that are listening today?
I have two things, I think. So one from a sort of beginning of your career and one later on in your career. And the beginning of career one is and possibly it's on the way, it's aspiring CEOs, is don't underestimate how much you can make your own luck. Things may come around the corner, be able to recognize when it comes along, but it's all about the preparation you've made in the years before that. And that's particularly around, when you go for that interview for the CEO, probably most people on the shortlist can do the job. But the key is, can you be trusted to do the job? And there's so much groundwork, an internal candidate you can do to gain that trust by asking your boss what their biggest problem is, what's their biggest concern area, becoming an expert in that, taking on things that proving that transition, you can be trusted to take on things you don't know and actually make them work. So don't underestimate making them up. And I think at the other end of the career, there's a sort of misunderstanding, particularly first-time CEOs, and that vulnerability armor. If I ask for or get a coach, a mentor, confidant, I'm going to stick with that too. I am admitting that I'm not perfect. I'm admitting that all the mistakes that I am vulnerable. It sends a really bad thing. Whereas having a coach mentor is not an admission that you're no good. It's completely opposite. It means you're prepared to learn, change, and you're aspiring to be better than you are currently. And all the best people will carry on having cages throughout their career. It's not. It was a little stage I went through when I was new. And you look at people who are the greatest at all time, or the Federers and the Tiger Woods and the whatever. They're having someone in. It's just coaching the expertise. It's having someone in your corner with unconditional support for you and you alone is just a massive thing to help you perform at your best.
Wow, those are very key parts of the story. Absolutely, I love it that you did one on the beginning and one when you're going through the C-level story. Thank you very much, David, for bringing these very beautiful insights and kind of confirming a couple of things that I've also been doing in the past, that I am not alone helping these people with their struggles.
We're not alone. That's the key.
So where can people find you and where can they order your book?
So it's available on Amazon and in several territories. So maybe you go online. So not just Amazon, but most online book retailers. It's called Become a Successful First-Time CEO, and on it is the website address, which is www.grayareacoaching.co.uk. I think it's .com as well, actually. Gray is spelled in the English way, Grey, not the US way, Gray, grayareacoaching.co.uk. And on that website, there's loads of information about me, there's loads of information about the coaching company and the approach that I take. And there's lots of, there's a tab media news, and there's lots of articles, interviews, podcasts, and the like to give you an idea, a wider idea that we've heard today over time of other things that I have opinions of.
That's beautiful. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today and to my listeners.
Thanks so much, Nick. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. And to the listeners, once again, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Share it with somebody you know who might need a little help becoming a first-time CEO or in any other area of leadership. And give us a 5-star review and some beautiful comments if you could, because the algorithms, yes, they are out there, the algorithms.
I think if anyone wants a digital copy of the book, if they come by you, I'll send them from copy.
Wow, that's a beautiful gift. So yeah, listeners, people that listen to the end already, hit the jackpot. Just let me know if you want David's copy, and I will communicate with David and leave you your name, especially with David at that point. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Everlasting Podcast. Let me leave you with a few questions to answer in the comments. How do you see the different topics we discussed during this interview? What are your thoughts? What stood out for you? Let us know in the comments or just send us your feedback. We launch new episodes weekly. Don't miss any by ensuring you are subscribed to the show. Click the follow button now. We depend on the organic growth of the podcast to inspire more and more people. So by giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with at least one of your friends who might be interested in the subject, you will significantly help more people become inspired. But more than anything, I am grateful to you for taking the time to listen to the show. If you are also a successful CEO, founder, or entrepreneur who has inspiring words to say, feel free to contact us for an interview at contact@nicovandevenne.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you again soon with more inspirational conversations on achieving everlasting fulfillment.